So there we are. I think I've got it all right. I shall admit this guest here. You are all very welcome, and I shall start again. So hello, everyone, and welcome to today's IAPC&M CPD Building Masterclass. And as I was saying before, this is a pretty crucial and vital topic that we will be discussing today. So my name is Julie Kennedy, and I am your host all the way from the not-so-sunny Netherlands. Today, we are delighted to welcome our special guest speaker on street smarts, which I think we all need, founder of the Hard Target Self-Defense Academy, which looks at self-defense body and mind. Of course, I looked you up, Aidan, and it's a lot of pretty impressive stuff that we should all know about there. So first, a little bit of housekeeping. Our call today will be a maximum of 1 hour, including 15 minutes Q&A. The session is recorded, so please mute yourself, but keep your video on so the speaker can see that they're not talking to themselves. It makes it so much more fun. And please use the chat box for questions. Aidan, actually, would you prefer questions as we go along or at the end?
I don't mind, Julie. Either is fine. I don't mind.
Okay, so then you can... Exactly. So then you can all decide either to park them in the chat box and we take them at the end, whatever you want. So our theme today is street smart, learn to stay safe and secure in today's world. And God knows we need that. So today we have Aidan Carroll, a specialist in this domain. And I suggest you grab your pens and your CBD pans and stay alert. And let's take lots of notes so that we can stay safe. Aidan, up to you.
Julie, how are you? Thanks for that introduction. Very welcome, ladies. Yeah, so really not to just go back over what you said, Julie, we specialize in self-protection. We are a self-defense academy, of course, but we specialize in self-protection, which is what we're going to look at today. So really looking at, the pre-incident indicators before the actual attack, avoidance, situational awareness, and so on. So I'm just going to make sure everyone can see my first slide there. So as I say, any questions as we go along, no problem at all, and we can take them at the end. I just want to, the first slide, I just want to focus on body language. To reference Dr. Albert Merhabin, author of Silent Messages, he conducted several studies on nonverbal communication and found that 7% of any messages is conveyed through words, 38% through certain vocal elements, 55% through nonverbal elements, facial expressions, gestures, postures, etc. So subtracting the 7% for actual vocal content leaves us with a 93% statistic. A big statistic, obviously, there, guys. So we know through 40 years now of studying self-protection, predators will select their victims based on their body language. So how you carry yourself. And of course, how we carry yourself, that can change day to day, of course. You could have maybe, a skeletal anomaly, a muscular problem as well. We'll talk about that later on in the workshop. But our mindset is a manifestation then of our body language. So how we feel on that particular day. So it doesn't matter if you're, if you're 5 foot tall, if you're 6.5 foot tall, it's how you carry yourself. So I do want to talk a little bit about that, the different body language signals, and then just to ask yourself a bit of introspection as we go through, what does your body language say about you? So when we look at the two pictures here, so we would call these, in victim state. So the earphones are in, the bag is on the shoulder, the brain is engaged. So there's obviously some information coming through them headphones. So that's obviously engaging our brain. And this is not to, to worry monger people or to make them hypervigilant, but just to be aware. You are impeding one of your senses there. So we're listening.
Okay, so you mean you look vulnerable because you're not aware of your surroundings? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Absolutely, yeah, Julie.
Okay.
Because obviously the earphones are in. So if our earphones are in, there's some information coming through them earphones. So we're listening to that. So we're also engaging our brain. So we've ticked 2 boxes there for a would-be predator. Hearing is impeded, brain is engaged. So you're more likely to be selected. So again, just to be mindful of these things. These are often common sense things, but they're not often common practice. So also we can see there the caricature of the gentleman on the left of my screen, the hands are in the pockets. So again, it doesn't look confident. The hands should be outside your body, of course. And we'll talk about the synergy between the upper and lower body later and the messages that sends. Again, looking at body language, again, what we call an in danger state. So the lady obviously laying down the bags and so on, the phone is to the ear. So obviously if she did need to defend herself in an immediate sense, her hands are tied up there for sure. The brain is engaged again. The lady again with the hands in the pockets. So we do want to be really focusing on a confident body language. And as I say, that can change day to day. We talk a little bit more about the mindset and how we can instill this as a regular practice.
That's interesting, because you see, I'd have thought that the lady on the right was looking self-confident with her hands in the pocket and her glasses on.
Let's go back to that, Julie. I'm glad you picked up on that, because so if you look at the lady's stance there, you know, the feet are shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider than shoulder width. That would be perceived as confident. But the only thing there which we could really augment that would be the hands out of the pockets.
Right.
And also the eyes. The glasses, so there is glasses on. There's pros and cons around that. I mean, obviously we train, you know, close protection operatives here, and there's oftentimes we'd say it's relevant now. It's going to be a useful tool to wear sunglasses. But on the next slide, it's interesting you picked up on that, because on the next slide, I'm going to talk about the relevance and the importance of eye contact. Because often, Julie, you know, we hear people say, I got this sixth sense, I got that feeling in my stomach that, you know, this person was analyzing me. They were checking me out, so to speak. I held the stare till he broke his stare. Not to be recommended. I'll explain to you now in a minute why. So I look, but I don't linger. So Julie, I can see your face there now on the screen. If I just kept staring at you and didn't take eye contact off you, that's going to unsettle you. Yeah. So straight away you see I'm laying the foundation there for confrontation. I don't want to do that. But what I do want to do, if I sense my intuition, something's not quite right here, I need to let you know I see you, but I'm not challenging you. And when I see you, this is important, the tilt of my head. So if I drop my head and look up through my eyebrows, the fact that the chin is dropped, it's a submissive gesture. If we look at the other side of that, if I bring my chin up and puff my chest out, I now look like I'm challenging you. Yeah. So we don't want to be prey, and we don't want to be predator. We want to be somewhere in the middle, which is what we're going to focus on for the rest of this workshop. So I look, but I don't linger. I see you. I let you know I see you. That's important. So again, in danger and safe. So we can see the lady here. She's hurried. Look at the gait. Look at the distance between her feet. So she looks hurried. The brain is engaged. She's looking at her watch. The bag is swinging and so on. So we're in a hurried state. I actually I write short stories. I wrote a short story there not so long ago, just about this actual scenario that unfolded probably a year or so ago. There was a lady attacked here in a filling station in Dublin, and the title on it, and not the victim blame, of course, but the title on it was "Slow Down," and slowing down everything. Obviously, if we slow down how we drive, we slow down how we walk, we slow down how we move about, we're going to be more aware of our surroundings. We're going to be able to absorb information around us. So if I'm in a hurried state, that can happen. You know, we're late for work. You know, we skip breakfast. The baby's crying, and everything that can happen. We're in a hurried state. But we're often ticking a lot of boxes here for predator because we don't know they're there. The predators don't often look like predators. So we're going to talk about the wolf in sheep's clothing, because predators come in all shapes and sizes. And we're going to talk about how they can manipulate you, but how we can expose these ruses, how we can expose these traps that they set up for us. And I'm going to show you a very, very simple way to do that in a moment. So the lady then on the right of my screen, you can see the posture, the gait, the hands, the arms, the shoulders, the head. So we're looking at not quite so much a military posture, but you know what I mean, about a confident posture. This will be important. Again, mindset determines movement. So you think, Julie, ladies, anyone who's watching this here today, when you feel a little bit ill, you feel a bit sickly, what do? You want to curl up, you want to go to a fetal position, you just want to be minded, you want to be comforted. So, you know, if the day is not going good, maybe the week's not going good, maybe, you know, you just haven't had a good year, that will often manifest on your body. You know, I close myself off. I don't feel too good today. And you might have had this from friends and family. Someone might say to you, Julie, okay. You might say, I'm not too good today. And how did you know that? And it's just your body language. They maybe can't pinpoint it, but it's just the way you're carrying yourself. So you can see
the
there
one on the left,
lady
is it because her shoulders are hunched then? Because at the same time, I always assume that, movement is good. Like I know when I visit a city that I don't know and I don't want to seem vulnerable, I don't want to seem like a lost tourist who's not sure, standing around, etc. I always assume movement. I always say to my partner something, let's just keep walking then. But there is a difference, of course, between rushing and looking at your watch and being totally unaware and movement. But this lady, is it because she's hunched up then?
Yes, you can see that there, Julie. So if you look at the upper spine there's a curvature in the spine. You can see the shoulders are rounded forward. Now,
okay.
To the untrained eye, that may not look like a lot of difference there. I mean, I'm pointing them out here, of course. So let's think of it this way. When we see somebody in the Olympics, Julie, someone winning a race, they go across the finish line. What do they do with their body? Don't they? They make themselves big. I'm the winner. I'm the best in the world right now, and I'll do a lap of honor because I want to make myself big and I want you to see me. I'm going to say on the judgment, there's some ego going on there, obviously. There has to be, of course, to some extent. But the person who comes in last, he or she doesn't do this.
No.
They round the shoulders forward, they drop their head, and they run off into the changing room.
It's a bit like claiming space, isn't it? So
Yes.
you're not daring claim space, right? And she is like hunched
Exactly.
down. Okay,
yes.
I got it.
So, to use the analogy of the race, I am the loser, I come in last. So I make myself small, I run off into the dressing room. I'm not on the podium, nobody wants to see me. Now, if that's the mindset we have in life, or day to day, I mean, that's life, isn't it? Some days are better than others. So I feel a little bit closed off today. And that's going to show up on my muscular system. It's going to show up my skeletal system. I just don't feel switched on today. I don't feel on par today. And then we feel confident. And we feel, the posture's good and the mindset is good. So we have the synergy between mind and body. And this is important. But again, it's just to monitor it because it will fluctuate day to day. There's a clip here I just wanted to show you how psychopaths select their victims. I played a clip, it's only a minute or two. Have a listen to it, just make sure the audio is okay for you guys. And I'll just highlight some points here at the end of it.
But now I can't hear anything.
Sorry, Julie, I'm going to stop there. You can't hear anything.
Are we supposed to be hearing something? Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Yeah. Oh, you can't hear anything. 1 second.
No.
Sorry about that. I'm not hearing anything there. Just 1 second, guys. 1 second. Just let me know, Julie, if you can hear this now. You getting anything? No, I'm not getting anything. Just give me 1 second. Sorry, I just have Arena here. She looks
no
after
problem.
tea. Just 1 second.
Lucky you.
Not sure why that is. Sorry about this, ladies. And if we don't get it, we can go back to it at the end. So.
The moment, no sound, no.
Were you getting that, Julie?
No, no sound.
No.
I can see the picture.
Okay, you can see the picture. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just come back to that. Yeah, let me just try. Let's try and take the headphone out for a second, Julie. 1 moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Was running for us earlier. 1 moment.
Yeah.
Got that?
Psychometric surgeon devised a.
Okay, sorry, Julie. So you're getting that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to go back 1 moment. Sorry about this, lady.
Scientists have long been interested in how it is these psychopaths seem to be able to successfully target the vulnerable person in the crowd. Recently, a psychopathy researcher devised a simple experiment to test how good psychopaths are at spotting a victim. The curiosity came from a throwaway line from the famous serial killer. And that was idea originally from a quote from Ted Bundy, who often is cited as being a psychopath. He said he could tell a victim by the tilt of her head as she walked. And it really struck me. I wonder, today, not surprisingly, it turns out that Ted Bundy was right. Angela Book chose a random sample of walkers that included one person who had been the victim of a violent crime, a rape, or serious mugging. It took the psychopaths only seconds to work out who was the odd one out. So watching these 15-second clips, we asked people to decide whether or not this person would be victimizable, and we did doing tips now. So we scored higher on sympathetic traits that relate to manipulation and lack of empathy. When we were more accurate in predicting who was a victim and who was not. Just watching the first second videos. What we see here is that her arms are not moving simply with her legs. One side was, but the other side was not. So that would be something that you wouldn't want to be doing if you didn't want to be seen as a victim. Anything out of the norm or that's synchronous would be important. And it's funny, and what's going on is there are certain evidence able to excuse because they have practice, but also to use it to their own advantage. So they use it for victimization.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sound came and got, the sound came and went, so it wasn't always in, I mean, we could see the pictures clearly and we could hear her that she was, every now and then she came in and we could hear her talk about the gait and the way the arms were swinging, but not always, to be honest.
Oh, so the sound wasn't consistent, Julie, wasn't
It
it?
wasn't consistent, no. It would come, well, for me at least, it would come and go sort of thing. But in short, it was all about, it was a trial, right? They had different people walk and recognize, and there was something, so it was based on a comment that Ted Bundy had made or had been made about Ted Bundy.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I'll do, sorry, ladies, I can send you that link anyway. Anyone who's on
exactly.
I can send you that link. But yeah, just to summarize it, Julie, what they were basically saying there was that if there's a lack of synergy between the upper and lower body, so you can see that the posture doesn't look confident, how the person carries himself doesn't look confident. So people might often say to me, well, you know, how do I look as I move about? And I say, it's like anything, we can retrain the brain. You know, we can retrain the brain. So often with the beginner classes, we say, we're going to teach you how to walk. You know, it's kind of tongue in cheek. People say, oh, well, I know how to walk. And I said, yeah, absolutely. You do know how to walk, but I'm going to get you to walk more confidently. And that often happens, we'd say, organically through the training, Julie. So when you get some skills that okay, I now have some tools that I know how to defend myself in situations. That in itself allows you to carry yourself more confidently.
Yeah.
And I remember my wife, who does a lot of training with me, we go back many, many years. And she said, you know, when will I know enough? And I said, well, look, you know, it's an endless web. We're always learning, you know, different situations and so on. But there will come a time, I said, and I can't say when that is, but there will come a time when you won't feel like the victim, meaning it's not what he can do to me. I say he, not to be, you know, politically incorrect. It's just statistically correct. Sadly, most bad people are men. That's the reality of it. So when I say he, it's not what he can do to me, it's what I can do to him.
Okay.
And that comes through training. And when you get that shift in mindset, it's very, very empowering.
Yeah, I see. Actually, to line in with that, Cynthia asks here, can women protect themselves even if they don't know any karate or kickboxing or any martial arts?
Absolutely. Who asked that question? Sorry, Julia?
Cynthia and the panel.
Very good question, Cynthia. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Cynthia, you know, my background obviously is in martial arts, but what we teach now is very much self-defense based. So martial arts, obviously being, I'd always encourage people to do it, but it is a sport, there's rules, there's regulations, and there should be, of course. But obviously in a real scenario, you know, there's no time for a warm-up, there's no time to pick your, you know, the weight categories, there's no time to stretch. So it's very much shock and awe tactics. And we train for that. So it's very much scenario-based training we do, Cynthia. So it's very much based on scenarios with a continuum of pressure. So when people come in every week, we slowly, with their permission, of course, we add a continuum of pressure, a continuum of reality. So we have this mind-body experience. It's what we call stress inoculation training. And it's very, very empowering. And the thing about that, Cynthia, is it doesn't matter what size you are, it doesn't matter what age you are, it doesn't matter how strong you are. It's understanding these pre-incident indicators. I now have all the information. I'm about to be assaulted. Can I remove myself? That's the best option, of course. Just don't be there. But I can't for whatever reason. Not because of ego, not because of pride. I need to protect myself. I need to protect my loved one. I need to, you know, facilitate an exit out of this bad situation. And that may be through the bad guy. Yeah. So we have to, we actually use ruses, we use traps to basically, we always want to react from a non-threatening position, Julie. So you imagine I know I'm about to be attacked. If I say to you, Julie, and I do this, back up, I'm showing you my fist. What does that say to you?
Well, either you're defending yourself or you're about to attack me.
I'm about to attack you.
Yeah.
And if I say, look, Julie, I really don't want any trouble.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Can you see the difference?
Oh, yeah, clearly.
But the only thing that changes this to this.
True.
Yeah? So this is where we train from. We train from a non-threatening posture. And that's where I act from. And it's very, very powerful. So it's not about strength or size. It is about mindset, conditioning your mindset. But very good question, Cynthia. Thank you for that. Now I'll just roll it on, but I will send that link to people. But that's a summary of that. Oh, sorry, you did mention some other thing there, Julie. About,
and she's just said, thank you so much. I see she's answered, Cynthia.
You're very welcome, Cynthia, very welcome. When we, you know, obviously as I'm a psychotherapist as well, and when we, criminology, when I studied criminology many, many years ago, because you would look into the likes of Ted Bundy, which we've all heard, of course, the infamous Ted Bundy. But he said many shocking things, of course, many unsettling things. One of the things we were focusing on in criminology was, he said, I selected my victims based on the tilt of their head. He went on to say, none of them wanted to upset me. They were all people pleasers. So what did he mean by that? What did Bundy mean by that? So he engages his selected victim in conversation. How does that person then interact with Bundy? He didn't know if he was a predator because he looked like the fabric of society, didn't he? You know, he was the chameleon. He was very well educated, complete narcissist, that's in the classical term, but he blended in. So we often judge a book by the cover, whether we like to admit it or not. You know, how does someone look? How do they come across to us? Do they startle us? You know, this person looks like a predator, or do they look like the fabric of society? So there are certain things that we can use, certain resources we can use to expose a person's true intentions, which I'm going to talk to in a moment. So, you know, does this person, without to label anybody, does this person look like a thug? Do they look like a person who's about to attack me? Or do they look like someone who's, you know, the fabric of society, the short toy briefcase? Because predators, as I say, are often the wolf in sheep's clothing, which I want to talk a little bit about as well. This next slide, the triangle of victimization. So if we look at the triangle, for an assault, for an attack to take place, this triangle has to come together. There has to be a predator, obviously. He has to have an opportunity, and he has to select his victim or his target. So an example of that, ladies, could be, let's say you're in the supermarket, Julie, and I do believe women's intuition is stronger. And if you want, I can come back to that. I'm just conscious of time, and I'll tell you why I believe that in a moment. So Julie's in, she's getting her shopping, and she gets this gut feeling, and that's her intuition. And there's something about this person that unsettles you. And you don't quite know what it is, but it could be a look, could be the way he got too close to you, could be the way he looked up through his eyebrows at you, could be many, many things. And here's the golden nugget of information. We don't need to know what it is. We just know something's unsettled us. Because we often cross-examine that in our head and we go, well, what was it? You know, was it the way he looked at me? You know, am I being a bit paranoid? Maybe I was watching too many movies about Ted Bundy over the last weekend or whatever. But your intuition said there's something not quite right, and you must act on that. But you're in the supermarket. Something about him unsettles you. He's selected you as the target, but he doesn't have the opportunity because you're in a crowded supermarket, it's well lit and so on. But then, and hopefully, Julie, and no one does this, you walk out of the car park and you go, oh, not as crowded out here, it's a little bit dimly lit. My car is on the other side of the forecourt there. Now you could be presented the opportunity. So it's just to stop for a moment, take in your surroundings and say, I do feel vulnerable here. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to be escorted to the car, maybe ask the security guard to watch me while I get to my car. I just don't feel comfortable here at the moment. And that's why I said earlier about Julie, about slowing down. It'll save so many problems. So think of the triangle of victimization. They all have to come into play for, you know, for want of a better word, the perfect storm to take place. This is a very important one, real fear versus unwarranted fear. So, Julie, when you think of your day and you think of something that worries you, whatever that would be, the mortgage, the argument with the spouse, you know, the argument with the work colleague, you know, something just that. It's part of the human condition. We've all been there. But what's so important about this slide is real fears is something in your immediate environment. Unwarranted fears are coming from the past or the future. I wish it was like it was last week, Julie. I wish it was like it was last month. Or maybe next month things will be different. But that's where our anxiety lives, the past or the future, but never in the moment unless it's real fear. Real fear. So I sense something from this person, they're in my immediate environment and I feel unsettled. That's a message from intuition. You're getting out of this fear and you must act on that. That's very, very important. And I think not just in a self-protection, but as a life lesson. Yeah. You know, I see this in my clinical practice as a psychotherapist. People present with different things, of course, but anxiety is certainly a common one we would deal with, and it's often coming from the past or the future. And then, of course, we go through modalities and structures to deal with it. But I just think that's a very important one there. Unwarranted fear versus real fears. The real fear will be something in your immediate environment. It's not imagined. The title on that one there, not all good people are nice, and not all nice people are good. I'll just say that again. Not all good people are nice, and not all nice people are good. Ask yourself, do you tick any of the boxes here? Passive, afraid to speak, and that could be in certain social circles. Acts too nice, avoids eye contact, often values others over themselves. Weak or no personal boundaries, and people pleasing. Now, as I say, I always come from a non-judgmental perspective, but over 30 years of teaching self-protection, I'd say that 90% plus people have come into me, survivors of assault, very courageous, very brave people, but they were all people pleasers. I'm not saying that in any judgmental way, but of course, if we chronically people pleasing, when we are under adrenaline stress, cortisol is rushing through the body, we will do what we've been conditioning ourselves to do. So we think about it again without just worrymonger people too much. I'm an aggressive predator. I'm telling you to go to the secondary location, get into the car, get into that room. I'm trying to move you. I can't say for certain, but I can say the commonality of it would be, if I go along with him, everything will be okay. If I try to pacify him, everything will be okay. If I try to be nice, everything will be okay. If I fawn to this person, everything will be okay. But of course, we never go to the secondary location. That's sadly where bodies are found. We've got to do something from point A. We're not going to point B. So a huge part of what we do, Julie, is the whole psychology aspect of it. If you are a people pleaser, that's fine. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to say it's a badge of honor. We're not saying either of them things. But it won't serve you when you're faced with predatory behavior. It never has and it never will. But the beauty of that is we can retrain the brain. Again, neuroplasticity tells us we can retrain the brain. And, you know, if someone is chronically people-pleasing, we have to start off at base camp, if you like. We have to start off at little baby steps. So it could be, Julie, if I'm a chronic people-pleaser, and Julie says, Aidan, we're all going out on Friday night for drinks, do you want to come along? Now, if I'm a people-pleaser, I may say, oh, okay, Julie, yeah, what time are we going? Who's going to be there? What time are we leaving? I'm basically saying I don't want to go, but I'm trying to gather intel. And I go along to be socially accepted. I go along because I don't really want to go, but, you know, I don't want people to think different of me and so on. So I go along. And we've all been there. We've all been in places, been in environments where thinking, I don't really want to be here. Why am I here? So I say to people, if you are struggling with this, there's many ways we can deal with it, but just pausing. So Julie asked me to go out on Friday night. Oh, yeah, that's interesting, Julie. Let me come back to you on that. I think I might be free on Friday night, but I'll come back to you. Now, that can be very adrenalizing for someone who's chronically people-pleasing. So I say, let's just hang out there for a while. Let's do that for a few days. And then let's see how we get on. We may often answer the text too quickly, answer the email too quickly, answer the question too quickly. It's a very common trait in people-pleasers. Again, not to judge anyone who's doing that, but it won't serve you. It's not a useful resource when we're faced with adversity.
So again, you're saying slow down again, right? You're saying again, slow
Yeah.
down. Just slow down.
Absolutely.
You don't have to say yes straight away, right?
Yes, yes. But again, Julie, I understand for people, if they are doing that, by all means, contact me. No problem at all. I can go through stuff with them, how to deal with this. We have a whole modality around this, and it's very, very powerful. We talked about earlier, Julie, predator or prey, because neither is going to serve us. So I become submissive or I become massively aggressive. So what is my nature like? And is it a cardinal trait? We all have cardinal traits. So there's something that you have within you, Julie, that's part of you, no matter who you're with. It's there, it's consistent, it's a cardinal trait. But often we wear different masks, don't we, in different environments. Again, it's part of the human condition.
Very true.
So if we have an aggressive cardinal trait, it's something we want to keep in check. So I'm speaking loudly, I'm interrupting others, I may explode, I acts judgmentally, intimidates to gain control, emotionally immature. Again, I say this never as judgment, just as observations. And, could we say we've ticked them boxes? I know I have. We've all done things and think, I'm not quite happy with that. We all want to vent our anger. And that's a positive thing, but how we do it and when we do it, that's important as well, of course. So predator or prey, certainly not going to serve us. What will serve us, and this is crucial, is calm and assertiveness. And again, you might say, I can do that with certain people, I can't do it with everybody. And I understand that too. So it's like anything, we need to practice it. There needs to be repetition. Because often when we feel, because the ego will tell us, oh yeah, I think I have this now. I think I know where I'm going with this. And then someone comes along and pushes you off your perch. What's going on here? I thought I had this mastered. And of course, we never master it. We get a little bit better at it every day. So we have a little blueprint to work from. And that's okay. That's okay. But what I would say, those people who are in your life that push your buttons, we all have them, they're your greatest teachers. What have they taught us about ourselves? They've held the mirror up and is it these are your weaknesses, these are your frailties. And of course, without these people who push our buttons, we can't go to a higher level of consciousness. They come into our lives for a reason, but it's up to us to say, what's the lesson that you're teaching us? This is very important. So
Cynthia's saying, sorry, I thought
go ahead.
I was just saying that Cynthia's, because I know she can't stay the whole time. I was just saying she was writing something here. She's written, if you live, feel free, Cynthia. Do you want to say your question? Feel free to switch on. Yeah.
Yes. Hello.
Cynthia, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask about the environment we live in. I said in the question that I live in an environment where the crime rate is rising because of the financial problems in our country. So is it enough for a person to be able to control his body language and eye contact and follow their intuition? If I'm walking on the street, for example, and I feel that, you start feeling suspicious of every person who's walking on the street. So is that enough to give the proper image of yourself that you're ready to fight back if anything happens?
Very interesting, Cynthia. So what you're kind of alluding to there, Cynthia, tell me if I'm right in this. It sounds like you may be hypervigilant.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, that's going to send out a signal as well that I'm likely to be selected. So I'm a little bit, you know, tense. You know, I'm looking at everything as a possible threat.
Yeah.
And hoping not, you know, summarizing this back to you wrongly, but that certainly won't serve us. So again, if I'm hyper vigilant, I want you to think about what we could possibly learn, Cynthia, from nature. So when we think of, you know, we think of the antelope and the Serengeti, and they sense danger. They don't, as I say again, cross-examine that. They know that there's danger there and they immediately move away. Okay. So when you think of, you pick up on something, and just to go back to what I said earlier, you pick up on something, Cynthia, that unsettles you. Just for a moment, say to yourself, is this imagined, or is this an actual threat in my immediate environment? Or is this just a manifestation of my thoughts? So with some training with that, Cynthia, and also some training in self-defense, you will start to walk about more confidently, carry yourself differently. But I would say just be mindful.
What if it is a fact? I mean, Cynthia lives in Lebanon, and it might be that there is, you know, that it's not just what she's worried about, but that there is, you know, a lot more crime or aggression because the country is going through financial difficulty.
Sure.
I mean, there are cases when, you know, it really is there, the danger, right?
Absolutely. Well, and another way then to look at it for Cynthia could be, we say looking for anomalies in the environment. So the best way to describe that is something that's there that shouldn't be there, or something that should be there that isn't there. And that's a good acid test, Cynthia, for you to, because I don't know your environment. I'm aware of it, but I haven't resided in that environment. So we would say to people, you're familiar with your surroundings, Cynthia, you're living there, you understand the environment, you understand the social structures and so on. So I would say to you, what's an anomaly to you in your environment that shouldn't be there, or there's something that should be there isn't there, and that's very important. That could be a little we'd say an exercise for you to do on a daily basis.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
No, you're welcome, Cynthia. Very good question there. Okay, so yes, so we're talking about assertiveness there, setting boundaries, confident body language, tone of voice, and so on. But again, comes again from what your mindset is at that particular time. I just want to play this again. I hope you can hear it. Just let me know if you can. This is, you probably all heard of Dr. Phil, the psychologist. He interviewed this lady who actually survived. She was taken by Ted Bundy, but she managed to survive really through divine intervention. But just have a listen to this non-judgmentally and just pick up on the red flags and the chronic people pleasing that went on here. I think it's an interesting clip. Just give me the thumbs up if you can hear this, Julie.
Tell me how you encountered Ted Bundy.
It was October of 1974. I was a pharmacy student at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. I was at City Park waiting for a bus to take me back up to campus. The bus was late. I was getting frustrated. And then this tan Volkswagen drove by very slowly. The driver kind of looked at me as he went past, and then he stopped and backed up and leaned over and rolled down the passenger window and asked me where I was going. I told him I was going up to the U, and he said, "Me too, hop in." So I opened the door and got in. The first thing that I noticed was the inside passenger door handle was missing. And he leaned over and pulled the door shut, but I wasn't alarmed. I figured college car, things fall off.
How does he look to you at the time?
He looked like a college student. He was dressed nice, had a green pullover sweater on, nice slacks.
And you say, okay, because he looks like the fabric of the university community. He didn't look like an outsider. He didn't look like we would think about a predator.
Right.
So you drive off, and what was his demeanor?
Lighthearted. We just had the normal conversation that strangers would have. I told him, my name's Rhonda, and I'm a pharmacy student. What are you studying? He told me his name was Ted, and he was a law student. In just a couple of blocks, he turned a way that wasn't the normal route to the university. And I asked him about that, and he was very polite and asked my permission if it would be all right if he took a little detour. He's probably had to run an errand up by the zoo, and I told him that would be fine. I didn't care. I thought I would still be home faster than if I had waited for the bus. And then we went right on past the zoo. And I said, hey, I thought you were taking me to the zoo. He said, no. I said, near the zoo. That road goes over the hill and drops down into Parley's Canyon, which is the main highway back into the city.
Nothing's gone off in your head yet.
Nothing's gone off. We're just having fun. We get to the bottom of that canyon, and we should have turned right to go towards campus. And the city turned left and started driving up another canyon. And as he's driving, he's kind of looking at parking places and side roads. The conversation started to go weird then because he stopped talking to me, and I'm still trying to make idle conversation. And I'm thinking that he's probably looking for a place to pull off and park and wants to make out. And I don't know him, and I'm not really a make-out person, but he's still a cute law student, and I don't want to offend him, and I don't want to embarrass myself. So I'm thinking of, how do I get out of this situation? And then he pulled into a parking place and parked the car and turned it off.
So at this point, you think, I'm gonna have to fend off a romantic advance.
Yes. And then he turned in the car seat, so he's kind of facing me, and he leaned in really close. I thought he was going to kiss me. Instead, he said very quietly, you know what? I'm going to kill you. And he put his hands on my throat and started squeezing. My first thought was, it has to be some kind of a joke. This guy's got a weirdest sense of humor. But that was just maybe a fraction of a second, because I realized he was squeezing too tightly. He was serious, and I was in trouble. And there's no other way.
What did you do?
We had a little small battle in the car, but I went unconscious.
So he choked you to the point of unconsciousness.
Yes.
Did you put up a fight?
I did as much of a fight as you can put up when you're running out of air.
Did you think at that point,
I'm going to die.
you think I'm dying in this Volkswagen Bug, right?
I thought I was going to die right there in the car. But he had other plans.
You managed to hear that, guys?
Yeah. So how did she escape?
Everybody asked that, Julie, yeah. And what actually happened was they showed the area there where the lady was assaulted, and there was a picnic bench apparently close to where the assault took place. He laid the lady on this bench. She was coming in and out of consciousness, and he went back to the car, the VW Bug that's kind of infamous now. We know Ted Bundy drove the VW Beetle. He went back to the car, and as he went back to the car, she could see him going back to the car. She thought, I think there's enough space here for me to try and get away, enough distance rather. And as she got up off the picnic bench, of course, it sounds horrific, but the lady's clothes were bundled up around her ankles. So as she went to run, she fell, she tripped and fell, and she fell down a ravine into a river, and the river whisked her off. She managed to survive in the water. Yeah, so divine intervention. There was an angel on her shoulder that time.
Yeah. But indeed, it's easy for us to listen from the outside and think, girl, are you mad? You know, are you naive? What are you doing getting in a car with somebody you don't know and thinking yeah. I mean, yes.
Can you again, I completely understand what you're saying, Julie. And, when we observe these things, we certainly don't judge anyone, of course. The lady survived, and thank God for it. But what was definitely coming across there was a chronic people pleasing.
Yeah, indeed.
She actually said, I didn't
yeah.
want to upset him. Yeah,
didn't want to upset him. I didn't want to embarrass myself. No,
and we talked earlier about pre-incident indicators and red flags. And Dr. Phil was being as respectful as he could when he said to her, she talked about the door lever being broken. He wasn't taking the left, he wanted to take the right. And he's saying to her, so there's nothing going off in your head right now? Of course there was, but she went into denial. Yeah, we went into denial. This can't be happening, but we know it is happening. Yeah. So that's why I do, pay particular attention to people pleasing.
Yeah.
Okay, just let me bring that forward. So the wolf in sheep's clothing, we've all met them, ladies. And I'm not saying all these people are sinister predators, but they often can manipulate us, hectoring, bullying, and so on. But we all have this innate gift that's been given to us, thank God, and that's intuition. It's your greatest weapon. It's your first messenger from fear, the link between the mind and body. And I often like to describe it as knowing without knowing why. So we'll just say, Julie, I'm sure you've had this as a lady. You've the first point of contact, be shaking hands, you've met somebody, and something just unsettles you. You don't quite know what it is. There's something about this person.
Yeah.
And if we can do that non-judgmentally, but just listen to the messages, there's something about this person. And sometimes we do look for validation of that through our friends or peers. You know, Julie might say to me, Aidan, this guy, John, I mean, how well do you know him? John is fine, Julie, you know, he's a good guy. Okay. Maybe you got him on a bad day, or, you know, he's a good guy. But something in your intuition, Julia, said, there's something not quite right here. But we do try to cross-examine that, try to validate, you know, maybe I'm being a bit paranoid here. But the fact is,
right? Yeah.
yes, your intuition is individual to you. It's like your thumbprint. You picked up on something. The other person didn't pick up on something because I didn't select them. I selected you. So your intuition says, okay, I need to be careful here. And that's usually hugely important. Andrew, how are you? Very welcome. So yes, the wolf in sheep's clothing. Like we see in there, Bundy, the short, the toy, the college educated student, you know, didn't use profanity, you know, so it didn't tick a lot of the boxes that we see, you know, that a predator, we may perceive a predator to be. We do a scenario here, Julie, because I often think the scenarios when people see them, it captures what I'm trying to put across. And we bring the ladies and the men, but ladies mainly in the ladies class, of course, and we bring them outside to the car park, and we get them to put shopping in the back of their car, or we get them to change their spare wheel. And myself or one of my instructors comes along, and we play the Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
Now, I must say here as well, there's a caveat here. This is not about not wanting to help people. I'm not accepting help. We don't really want to live in a society like that. Won't be good. But you do it on your terms. And here's how it unfolds. One of my female students or instructors are changing the spare wheel. They're putting shopping in the back of the boot of the car. And I come along, Miss, can I help you with your bags? Now, when you look, I engage you in conversations, you look at me and you're assessing me in seconds. How does this person look? And you're getting all this intel coming at you. And how do I look? Now, do I look like the fabric of society? Or do I look like a tool? You think, I don't want this guy helping me, you know? So I don't want to be sound too politically incorrect, but we have to cut to the chase and say it as it is. This person unsettles me. The look about them unsettles me. How they approach me, how they unsettle me. What they said unsettled me. How they said it unsettled me. I don't want this person helping me. Now imagine I'm a chronic people pleaser. No, I'm fine, thanks, I can manage. So I'm not too emphatic with my no. But no is no, it shouldn't be negotiated. But I'm just not too emphatic with it. No, I'm okay, thank you. Are you sure now? I'm going that way. I don't mind helping you. No, I'm okay, thanks very much. I think I can manage. Now I'm right beside you. And then I say something that really unsettles you. And then you think, okay, now I'm in the lines, then how do I get out of here? Now, let's go back. Again, I approach you. And you stand up, not too fast. Again, maybe set a bit slowing down. You extend your hand. I'm fine, thanks, I can manage, thank you. Are you sure I'm going that way? As I said, I'm okay. I have it in hand, but appreciate your offer to help. Now, that when I do that, Julie, there's nothing aggressive about that. I think we'll agree, but it is emphatic. Now, I said this to men come into the seminars, and I say, "You've offered help." They say, "Yeah, I'd like to offer help." I say, "Yeah, I do too." And if a woman says no, do you listen to it? And guys might go, "Well, sometimes I don't." I say, "Okay, well, that's probably for another seminar." But I'm not a bad guy. They'd say. They say, "No, I'm not saying you're a bad guy, but you did refuse to hear the word no." Yeah, but you know, I think she needed help, and you know, I wouldn't be attacking the lady. I say, yeah, I get that. I appreciate that. But if a lady is emphatic, she puts her hands up and says, "I have this in hand. I'm okay." They all go, I'm not going forward now.
Well, that already sounds different, doesn't it? Because the other no, you know, when men
Completely.
say, oh, but I thought her no was a yes, you know, I mean, sometimes it sounds a bit like, oh, you know, I would like your help. Or, you know, when you said it the way you did, like, no, you know, it sounds like she is saying yes, but is just embarrassed that she's not managing to do it herself or
Exactly.
whatever. So it's to believe your no when you say it, right? And that you have a right to say with the best of intentions, thank you very much for your offer, but no, thank you.
Exactly, Julie. You succinctly put it there perfectly. You said it emphatically, you said it with respect, but that was a definite no. You know, you didn't drop
But as
your
you
head.
say, you need that self-confidence. I mean, that's the one thing that I like with age, is that you get to the point where you can actually say what you know, I understand what you're saying about all this people pleasing. And I do believe that
Yes.
with age, we get maybe a little bit more confident and we know more about our boundaries, all those things that you wrote in that slide before, which it is very hard for people to learn, right? If you've been conditioned that way. So thank goodness there are people like you doing what you do, because I think this is something we all need to learn.
Yes, I agree, Julian. It is a bit of an eye-opener for people when they come in, you know, they make the call, they send the email, I want to learn self-defense. I said, that's fine. We have a bit of a chat with them, we do an intake with them and so on. And when we start to go into the whole psychology of it, they go, I wasn't expecting this. But you imagine, Julie, you come to me because you know, you feel you want to get some skills to defend yourself. You can do that at any age. Of course, I have people here in their late 70s training with me. But I go straight to the choke. I go straight to the knife defense. I go straight to the carjacking. And I do all that, and we do that. But I haven't said anything about avoiding it. I haven't said how predators select their victims, what your body language says about you, you know, getting some idea of who you are as a person in the world. And that's hugely important. So you can have all the skills, Julie, but if you haven't got the mindset, because, you know, the physicality is going to wane, isn't it? It's going to atrophy. But we can continue to keep working. As you said, as we get older, hopefully we can continue to keep working on this. And that's hugely important.
No, and I mean, what you say just makes so complete sense. I mean, the first biggest thing is to try and get out of the way, you know, don't get into the situation where something like that's going to happen. So it's the slowing down and the awareness and the, you know, listening to your intuition when something says, you know what, just wait inside a little bit until somebody else goes out with you as well, or whatever. I mean, of course, we can then get into the, you know, what can we physically do? I mean, sorry, Andrew, for having a guy on, but I know that for women, we've often been told, you know, for example, to not use a weapon because the chances are large that we will be overpowered and that the weapon will then be turned against us. I mean, I don't know what you think about, I remember when I did a self-defense course, it was things like no ponytails, you know, don't have something where somebody can grab you easily. I mean, gosh, there's so much to talk about. I mean, I don't know if there are any questions. We do have another, let's say 10 minutes. Do you want to, should we just keep going for now?
Yeah, thinking for questions, but just something I'd like to just touch on. You've mentioned there, Julie, about weapons.
Yeah.
You know, and the legalities and laws are changing, of course, and are different depending on where we live. But you have these, Julie. I have these. And you can take these through customs. These go through customs. These go through airports. And we show you how to use these. Because as you rightly said, if I am using a weapon, it could be taken off me and used against me.
Exactly.
So we did.
I mean, I didn't mean by a weapon walking around with Kalashnikovs. I mean, I live in Holland as well, so we're not. There's no carrying of weapons, and I didn't mean a knife either. I meant just, you know, sometimes pepper sprays, what some people say, or to, you know, just literally pick something up, whatever it is that you see. But then the chances are that physically we do tend to still be, whatever workout we do, slightly less strong physically than men. So the chances of them actually then acquiring a new weapon through taking it off us could be big. But yes, but please continue. Sorry, I'm so enthralled with the. I'm busy.
No, it's interesting, Julie, because, you know, it's when we think of, here's an example. People would say to me when I'm doing stuff in the media, and they say, so you're being choked, your hands are on your throat, what do you do? And I kind of say tongue in cheek, well, I don't know what I do. I said, well, you're the expert. I mean, well, what do you mean you don't know? I said, I need more context.
Yeah.
Well, does it matter if someone's choking you? I said, yeah, it does. And what I mean by that is, I train psychiatric nurses. They could be with a patient, you know, that's mentally challenged, but they've got them by the throat, but they're in their care. So that has to be removed. Of course, it has to be removed. That's the source of agitation is at the neck. I have to remove that, but I shouldn't be looking to knock the patient out.
Yeah.
But again, we'd say Julie's in the car park. Horrible to think about. Some guy jumps out of the bushes as where as it is and puts their hands on Julie's throat. You have to act immediately. You have to shake that person's brain. You have to be able to hit them hard enough to facilitate your escape. So not all grabs are the same.
Yes.
Does that make sense? It's also
Yes.
like, we'd say pepper spray. We've done tests on this. I'm sure you've seen them. The mindset of the person that the pepper spray is used on will determine the outcome. So I'm an aggressive predator. I have narcotics running through my blood. I have alcohol running through my blood. I have a lifetime of trauma running through my blood. And you unload pepper spray in my face. But I already have you in the secondary location. I already have you that when you scream, no one's going to hear you. So that pepper spray, it could slow me down. But
Yeah.
excuse me for being rude. It can also really piss me off.
Yes.
And it could
Make
really
you even
annoy
more
me.
angry. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, it has its uses, but we also have to think of the limitations as well.
Yeah.
And of course, pepper spray in Ireland is classed as a firearm. But so it's not something I would say to someone, yes, get the pepper spray. Because we're relying on a supplementary backup there, Julie. We all have it here. We have it here. And we can use these to defend ourselves, and that's hugely important. Charm and niceness. Did you ever come across someone, Julie, ladies, gentlemen, that they're almost too nice?
Mm.
They're too sweet to be wholesome. I remember my mother saying to me, they're too sweet to be wholesome. Didn't know what she meant by that. But as I went on later and started studying criminology, oh, now I know what she means by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this person was charming. But predators often have to be charming to pull you into their trap, don't they?
Exactly.
They have to present as charming. That's how they lull you in. False sense of security.
Yeah.
So I often say to people, when did they start to charm you? Oh no, they're charming. I said, no, charming is a choice. You don't, it's not a cardinal trait, as we spoke about earlier. I'm choosing to charm you, Julie, to get something from you. Now, I also want you to think a little bit abstractly about this. It doesn't mean that I'm a sexual predator, but I could be using charm to manipulate you to gain, in my favor. So that's something to watch out for as well. So I want the people who are listening here today, although we're talking about, quite sinister attacks, you can also think about this, in your work environment and your day-to-day life,
Exactly.
So charm is to gain something. I'm looking to gain something from you. And niceness is often done to deceive. Just have to remember that, done to deceive. So niceness again is a choice.
And again, it's to use our gut as well, though, isn't it? Because it doesn't mean that we've got to be, well, yeah, okay. So we should be wary of everyone, but that doesn't mean that we become, that we don't trust people or, get to know people and become new friends. But it just means to be aware the whole time and to make the difference, I suppose. Yes,
100%. And, doing a little check-in with yourself, June, and saying, what's my self-esteem like? That I feel worthy to protect myself? That I need to put up mental and physical boundaries and have these emotional boundaries in place.
Yeah.
When we think of the unsolicited approach, as we touched on earlier, the Good Samaritan offering to change the spare wheel, bags in the car, and so on. Again, this is not to create hypervigilance. I just want to keep underlining this. Your intuition will tell you what to do. So what we must remember here is this person approached me. I didn't approach them. And if they do approach me and they've all the goodwill in the world, and I say, no, thank you, I'm fine. If they've all the goodwill in the world and a good person, I say, that's fine, problem. They're not going to persist. And we have to remember that. That's a gold nugget of information. They will not persist once you're emphatic with your words. They're not going to turn into a predator, Julie, is what I'm saying.
Exactly. And so that's when you know that all the alarm bells should go off, and now you've got to really adapt to the strategy. That no is no, and that you shouldn't have to be bargaining that it's a no for the next 10 minutes.
Exactly.
No
Bargaining
is
a good
goodbye. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Because what's the worst case scenario? So if it is a Good Samaritan and you say, no, I'm fine, I'm okay, I can manage, thank you. If they are a Good Samaritan, they're not going to, they're not going to turn into a predator. So what's the worst that they can think? You better get out of bed on the wrong side. But they're not going to attack you. That's what we need to remember.
No, exactly. That is what you're talking about here. We are going to need to wrap up, though, I'm afraid, Aidan, because we are.
Okay. Any questions, guys, before we wrap up? Any questions from anybody before we wrap up?
No means no. Yeah. It's not the
No,
beginning
exactly.
of a negotiation. Exactly. That's exactly what you've just said, right?
Yes, I just hold it
And
there a
that's
second,
where
just
we
a
should
couple of-
really, yeah. So some of us
Yeah,
are
no,
more
just
in
to-
tune with our intuition than others, I guess. But that's when you really
Absolutely.
know.
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah.
This was just sort of slides, Julia. Say I can send
Yeah.
this on to the people who are,
Please
because
do.
it's a comprehensive course. I didn't want to overload them with information.
Yeah. No,
So I can certainly
if you
send
send
them
this
on.
all into RIA, into the office, then we can attach this with our replay as well.
Sure.
I mean, it's fascinating, and it's something that we that we can do stuff, right? That we can. Oh, cheers, Andrew saying cheers again, Aidan. Great information. He was at work, so he couldn't actually talk. That's why he was saying.
No problem, Andy. You're
He was
very
listening
welcome.
to
Thank
it
you.
on silent. And Cynthia also said a huge thank you to you. I already knew she
Thank
needed
you
to
too,
leave
Cynthia.
early. But I mean, this is something that everyone should know, right? This is something that should be taught at school as well, to be honest,
I agree.
right?
I agree. Yeah, I absolutely
Okay.
agree.
We
Imagine
will
we
make
had
sure
1
we have
hour
all
of
your
this, Julie.
information. Yeah.
Imagine we had 1 hour of this in a school curriculum, just 1 hour a
Yeah,
week.
Yeah.
Make a huge
yeah.
difference, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And I mean, this is something which goes beyond, coaches. This is something that we should be teaching, our daughters, our friends, our sisters, and spreading the word. And I mean, great that you have this academy. I'm sure that people will be looking you up and seeing, what can we do? It just takes away, we can't control everything in our lives, but I think it's very important to know that we can do things, and there are things that we can do. So thank you,
Absolutely.
Aidan, very, very much. And for the rest of you, write down, pay attention. If we're all more aware of our surroundings and of all of that, indeed running around with 800 things and on the telephone when we don't have a clue what's going on around us, that's when problems happen. So thank you to everyone, and thank you in particular to you, Aidan. All the
Thank you,
very
Jill.
best. All the very best.
And if anyone wants any information, just drop me an email and I'll send it on to you, of course.
Thank you.